Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to another day, another lesson of writing. Um, we're going to get out one of our old stories today, and we're going to revise our stories. We're going to add more to our writing. Let's listen to a lesson from Lisa today and see how she fixes up one of her stories. Let me make myself smaller and move me out of the way. And now you guys can watch Lisa.
Welcome back, writers. Are you ready for today's writing workshop? So, writers, you might remember the other day you and I planned a story together about when I spilled the markers all over the table. You remember the story went, one day I was getting ready for writer's workshop. I knocked it all over the table, and then I picked them up. And I was thinking about some read aloud. Some read alouds in books that I love, like Night of the Veggie Monster. And it made me think about my story of spilling my markers on the table. And I kind of started thinking, would my marker story make a good read aloud? Like, would kids want to hear it, love to hear it, get so excited for it, like we do with Night of the Veggie Monster? So I pulled the story out, and as I started rereading it, I noticed my story was really short. And I was thinking if I read this to kids, they might just say, that's it. They'd probably be expecting more. And I bet some of you have some stories that you're thinking the same, like, yeah, my story's really short. I bet I could add some more to it. So, writers, today I want to teach you that writers have a saying. When we're done, we've just begun. And when writers finish a piece, they go back and revise it by looking at the pictures and making pictures in their mind and asking questions like who, or what, or where, or when, how. And then they make sure the answer to those questions are in the stories. So, writers, I was saying, writers have a saying, right? When they think they're done, they've just begun. So, here's my finished story about spilling the markers, and I'm done. I finished it. So I could just sit back and relax and maybe have a snack. I'm all done with my story. Some of you are shaking your head. No, I'm not done. I should add more. I should go back and revise it and add more so that my story could be like a read aloud. I think you guys might be right. Will you help me think about what some things I can add to my story are? Let's start at the second page because that page is really short. So, writers, let's reread this together and let's look at the pictures and make a picture in our mind. And let's try to ask some questions so that we can add more to my story. I knocked it over. What did I knock over? I knocked over the jar full of markers and pencils and scissors. Yeah, that's really important, right? And it's all in my picture too, like the scissors, the markers, the pencils. Where did I knock it over? On the table. Yeah, that's probably really important for me to add also, right? On the table. Or how did I knock it over? I bumped into it. So those sound like important things that I probably want to add to my story to make it sound more like a read aloud, more like Night of the Veggie Monster.
I think that's a really good idea for her.
I knocked it over. The what? The markers, the pencils, the scissors went all over the table when I bumped into it. So, writers, I think that is making my story a lot more interesting. It's sounding more like a read aloud. Let me get that in. I knocked it over. The markers, pencils, and scissors spilled all over the table. So writers, did you see how we did that? How you guys helped me thought about what I could add by asking some questions and then going back and making sure the answers to those questions were in my writing? Let's try it on another page. I picked them up. What did I pick up? The pencils, the markers, the scissors. How did I pick them up? Well, I kind of like scooped them up. I scooped up the pencils, the markers, the scissors, and what? What did I do with them? Oh, I put them back in the jar, right? I can see it in the pictures that I put them back in the jar. So I picked them up. Let me get that in. I put the markers, pencils, and scissors back in the jar. So writers, I'm thinking that this story is starting to sound more like a read aloud. By going back and asking these questions and making sure the answers are in my story, I'm adding a lot more and making my story sound more like Night of the Veggie Monster. So writers, right now, you might be thinking about a story that you can go back and revise and add more. It could be a story like mine where it's just really short and you want to add more to it so it feels more like a read aloud. So right now you can go into your folder and grab a story that you might want to go back and revise. And you can do like we just did. You can reread your story and ask these questions and then make sure the answer to those questions are in your writing. Are you guys ready to give it a go? Okay, off you go. I'll see you tomorrow.